Welcome to the Forward Podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Shepard.
And I'm your co-host, Carrie. Good
And
to be with you guys tonight.
And we are coming to you live from the backyard. we are in our backyard here in Indianapolis, Indiana, and just absolutely, we have had some of the best weather lately.
It is such a gorgeous evening. It's been so nice.
Literally perfect.
We've been living on this back deck, so
So we just,
why not do the podcast?
Yeah, we figured tonight, let's get out here. Kids were loud inside, so we kicked them. Half of them were playing out here. We kicked them inside and said, "Hey, let's record out here.
Let's do it."
So, but our son is going pretty quick. So, for those of you who watch via YouTube, we'll have to jump right into this tonight. So,
we only have 15 minutes of sunshine left. So
maybe a little bit longer. It's going to go fast.
This will limit our time.
It's going to, for sure.
Which you guys are all glad about.
Hey, now, come on. People enjoy it. But before we jump into our subject this evening, we did have just a couple of questions, kind of want to follow up with a comment that you had made in one of our previous episodes, speaking to women or on behalf of women, and just said, hey, ladies, we need to pick up a book. We need to be reading. And so we had a couple of questions come in that asked you specifically, Carrie, what do you like to read? Okay, what are you currently reading? And then there's a third question to this, and we'll get to that here in just a moment. So, what do you like to read? I'll kind of I'll kind of follow up with this as well. And then, what are you reading right now?
Yeah, what I like to read, obviously, I like a good self-help, improving yourself book. Good habits, Atomic Habits, things like that. And I do read a lot of those. However, they can get overwhelming. I feel like you can kind of go off too long on, you're trying so hard to improve everything about yourself that it's this like floodgate of, I'm not doing anything right. And so I've learned to limit those. I'll read one and try to really absorb it. And then I'll read a fiction book, and just something fun to kind of give my mind a rest. And that seems, I retain more that way, it seems. So right now I'm reading this one by John Mark Comer. It's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And I love to hurry. I love to be always panicked and stressed out. I say that jokingly. I don't love it, but sometimes I feel like I do because I can't stop, right? I just feel like I'm constantly in a hurry. So I found this book, I think just at Barnes & Noble the last time we were there.
I think you're right.
And the cover grabbed my attention, and it has been a wonderful read. I'm almost done with it. I only have a few chapters to go. So that's what I'm reading right now. And again, it's kind of a self-help. It's, self-improvement. But it's been a huge blessing. Before this, I did a whole fiction trilogy. So I was ready for this. I was ready. Like my brain
and it was the end of the world trilogy.
Yeah.
You got from a friend. I have not even read the first book.
They were great. They were really good.
But you do enjoy that too.
I do. I love a good fiction book. There's sirens in the background now.
We'll get them out. It's fine. It's fine.
But I do like fiction, and I think it's important to give your mind a rest. I think a lot of times women, we're so overwhelmed trying to be a great wife, trying to be a great mom, trying to be a great, teach me about friendship. How do I read the Bible? Like all these things that we want to be so proficient and efficient, and then it can kind of go the other way, where you almost get discouraged with all the things that you need to improve. Maybe it's just me, I don't know, but I feel like I've had this conversation with women before. So I'm not afraid to just spend my time reading a good fiction book and let my imagination wander for a little while. But I do enjoy these books as well. And so I'm nearly done with this one, and I have a book on prayer after this that I'm really excited to dig into. So that's what I'm going to hit next.
Good. Let me ask you, what do you do for, again, if you're listening to this podcast and you're not a Christian, we'd love to talk to you more about that. But we are Christians. We do have what we would call a devotional time with the Lord.
Yeah.
And so we like to spend time in meditation with our God. And what do you do for your devotions? What do you read for your devotions?
Right now, I'm doing a book called Grace Laced. And it's a huge devotional book. I think it's a whole year long.
Oh, wow.
And I just started it. And so I'll do books like that. It was written by a woman, a great Christian woman. It's wonderful. I think it's a couple pages a day. It's not too intense. And it's beautiful. The illustrations are really beautifully painted and drawn and all that. So that's what I'm doing right now. I do like to do a book by book study though, like just take one book of the Bible and really dig into it. And for that, sometimes I'll honestly just use the YouVersion app and I'll just do one of those. Like you can follow a schedule and get through a book in a month or a book in a week or, you know, whatever you want to follow. There's endless options. And then I'll just kind of study through that. And I usually end up, when I do that, creating a lesson here or there for any retreats that might be coming up, just because I'm studying anyways. And so that's kind of a great little add-on to my devotions that I get a lesson or two out of it typically. Right. But I do like to go book by book. Yeah. I like just the cohesiveness.
Absolutely.
You know, you're sticking with one author, you're following kind of usually one thought through the whole book. And I like that too.
That's good.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. For me, I'm reading actually a book right now by Craig Rochelle. It's called Think Ahead. And he's a great author. He's a very easy author to read.
Oh, I like that.
I know probably there's so many people out there that listen to this podcast that you're like, you're not supposed to recommend books that you don't agree on or with the author 100%. So I'll just tell you this. I personally believe that hurt us as Christians and as individual thinkers, and especially if we want to be critical thinkers. Unfortunately, we got in this mindset that we just read certain authors that we agreed with 100%. And the thing is, Kara, I've learned, besides the Bible, there's not really an author I do agree with 100%.
I was actually, that made me want to ask you.
Yeah.
Why is that a thing sometimes in our Christian circles where you cannot associate with someone unless you're in 100% agreement with them? Why is that a thing?
Girl.
I know. Like, is this a rabbit trail?
Let's pull. You pull up a chair because
I just feel like
we're gonna have to get
crazy.
That campfire going right now. If we're gonna go down that trail.
Let me ask you honestly: do you and I agree 100% on everything?
Is this a trick question?
No.
Yes, ma'am.
Good answer, but wrong.
No, we don't agree on everything.
Of course we don't,
Absolutely,
and we're married,
right?
And we live together. Like I don't think there's a person on earth I agree with 100% on everything.
Right.
So I don't know why we do that.
It's a great conversation. It is a long conversation.
Yeah, we need to get that on here sometime.
We do. We need to dig into that a little bit more. Yeah. It would be a long. I disagree. I mean, I just do not agree that you have to read or listen to or look. If you listen to podcasts, you realize quickly you don't agree with everything.
Right.
And the only thing you and I agree on is the Bible. And so for me, again, I'm okay with saying I read a Craig Rochelle book because he's got some great topics in there that I could pull from. I'm not going to agree with everything, but he does have a heart for God, and this book's called Think Ahead, 7 Decisions You Can Make Today for a God-Honoring Life You Want Tomorrow.
That sounds good. And I need to do that one.
It's really great, and it's a very easy read, again.
It's not a big book either. I could do that in a couple days.
People ask what we enjoy to read. I'm not a fictional reader really at all.
No.
I just am not, and so I can't even think of the last really fictional book. I think it was Lord of the Rings when I was a teenager. That's how long ago it was. Yeah. For me, it is always usually self-help, a lot of theology. I love stuff that helps our family. And so I read a book here recently, Praying Circles Around Your Kids. And so I love stuff that helps us spiritually is kind of
now we both once in a while will like a good John Hagee book.
That's
like
true.
The thick, the big old like.
I just read that huge 500 page. 400
I think it was 5.
400 or 500 page on Jerusalem.
Once in a while, I can't read it that a lot, but about once a year, I'm like,
funny.
Okay, I want like a deep dive. Like
and it was a deep dive on Jerusalem and Israel going all the way back. Yeah, it really was. It was a good history book for sure.
Yeah, I love learning.
So here's the question, and this is everyone's excuse. So you're sitting here and you're like, "Oh, it's great, but I don't read at all." And most our generation, especially younger, are into shows. They binge watch shows. Not a lot of people sit around reading anymore. And so here's what we always hear when I make a statement: readers are leaders, or you say, "Come on, ladies, we need to read more. We need to learn how to think on a deeper level." Here's what people always say. Inevitably, they say, "I just don't like to read." It's what we always hear. I just don't like to read. So you didn't know I was going to ask you this, but I'm going to ask you. you have somebody that's like, I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to, I want a deeper intellect to where I can talk to my husband about, different subjects, but I don't like to read. What do I do? What's your advice to somebody like that?
Well, number one, you have so many options now. Podcasts, listening to a book. You don't have to sit down with a paper, back book and read like in the olden times.
Paperback book?
Or just like
Oh.
a physical book.
Oh, yes.
You can listen to books if it's easier for
Yep,
you to be.
Audible.
I know when the kids were smaller, I didn't feel like I had time to sit and read.
Mhm.
Because by the time they all got to bed or I had any free time, I was not spending it on reading.
Right.
But I could pop in headphones and listen to a book while I was doing laundry, while I was making dinner. So that's an option. If you don't like to sit and like physically read a book, listening to it is a great second option.
Mhm.
And then the other option is like, I don't know, do you like to eat vegetables? Do you like to work out? Do you like to brush your teeth and take a shower? Like there are things that we do because they are necessary to do. And in my life, reading is one of them. I just hit my mic and I'm
It's
worried.
okay. It's okay.
Okay.
No, you're okay.
So it's not always the easiest thing to do, but if you spend 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes a day. So after I had the kids, again, I was kind of out of the habit. I started with articles. I would go online and find just like an interesting article about anything that I was interested in. I do love history. And so typically they were a 10-minute read on something historical or even entertainment. It's okay. If
Right.
you like celebrities and your entertainment, read something to kind of get that habit started and you will work up to, even if you don't love it, just one chapter a day in something that improves your mind, improves your mindset. It might just be that you need encouragement or, if you're suffering from depression, reading is a great tool. Encouraging reading in books and things like that. So start small, start easy, and just like anything that's difficult to do, exercise, but it's good for you. Eating right, all of that, reading your Bible, praying, meditating, taking walks. You start small and you work your way up.
So
And
good.
you don't have to like force yourself to be this amazing. I can read, 24 books a year. You don't have to do that. But if you read one book a year, it's better than no books a year. So start small and work your way up. And I think it's healthy. I think it's a good habit.
That's great. That's good. Well, we had some feedback, and so some
Yeah.
folks wrote in, and I love when people are taking an interest in this podcast, and
Mhm.
so kind of just want to start off breaking kind of the ice, talking about that subject for a little while.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
tell us what you think. What are you reading? What books do you like to read? And send us a couple that you'd like for us to check out.
Hmm.
We are readers.
Yeah.
And so you're a much faster reader than I am. You're just like my dad. My dad can fly through a book. You fly through a
He
book.
can read so fast.
So can you. So can you. I am
Really?
like a methodical reader. If I
Yeah.
don't have everything on the page, I got to go back and read it. And so it just takes me a lot longer. But
Mhm.
it is something that you and I have grown in. And I think
Yeah.
for the individuals, the college student, the teenagers listening to this, or the married couple, this is something you got to start. Let's get back to
Yeah.
being people that are learning. We are growing. We're working on ourselves, our marriages, our
Mhm.
kids, our faith, and this will help you in a great way. Okay, great,
Yeah.
Kara. Thanks so much for
Yeah.
answering those for us. Tonight, what we're going to jump into really is social media. And now don't get scared and like, I'm not listening to this. I want you to know we all, if we're not careful, have problems with social media.
Yeah.
And so we're going to make this a several part series just because we have a lot of information that we've
Mhm.
compiled and we want to be a blessing and encouragement and help. Unfortunately, what we're talking about to start it off is going to be the pitfalls
Mhm.
and or the warnings of several things that can come that has a negative effect on us.
Yeah.
Now, before we start out, Care, what social media do you have
I have.
currently?
Well, remember we went over this in one of our episodes.
Okay.
I have Instagram,
Great.
Facebook,
Great.
Instagram and Facebook, and then I do have an X account, but it is
Oh, that's
incognito.
right. That's right. I still didn't figure it out. I did a lot of Googling, but never
Okay.
found you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have an
That's right.
incognito
That's right.
account. I
And
don't post
then
on it though, but yeah.
we are, didn't you start a TikTok
I
for
started a
us?
TikTok for our Forward podcast. Haven't posted on there yet because I've never used TikTok. So I have to learn how.
We're going to learn it, y'all.
We're so old.
We're coming. We're
I have to
coming
get
with that.
Lois, my 12-year-old, to help me.
But she doesn't have a TikTok. But yeah, we do.
But she still will
We
figure it
need,
out though.
she will.
Yeah.
She will. We'll jump in there. So I have the same Instagram,
Yeah.
Facebook, and then
X.
I'm on X as well. Don't have a TikTok. And then we have our YouTube channel. And
Right.
so that's what we currently have. That's not a comparison of, by any means, we're not approaching this tonight saying that you shouldn't have social media and it's all wrong, it's all bad. So we have ours, but we definitely, through the years, have seen some things that have hurt our spirit.
Mhm.
They have hurt our families, and we're seeing it more and more with those that we counsel
Yeah.
and are around. So
Mhm.
we want to start out tonight by talking about some pitfalls. So, Kara, let's look at the first one. Why don't you go ahead and start with this one? What is the first pitfall that we kind of run into that begins, if we're not careful, can really begin to hurt us?
Oh, comparison, for sure.
Yeah.
Comparison. You're looking at everybody else's life. You're comparing, am I, as pretty as that? Am I as thin as that? Do I have that house? Do I have the family or even the, single life? Or, I mean, you're just constantly, and that's the thing, like you can't get away from it. Maybe guys don't, but if you're a woman, like you are comparing yourself to someone as you scroll.
That's right.
And the problem is now the algorithms are so quick to learn your behavior that if you pause on anything, or it's even reading your face, like as you're watching a video, it can tell how interested you are. And so, I mean, it's just so good at knowing what to feed you and what you're kind of obsessing over. And then, I mean, you fall right in that trap.
Right.
Like comparison
Right.
for sure is a huge problem with social media. And I've said it before and I'll just continue to say it. I don't know that there's anyone strong enough to resist being on social media and not comparing themselves to other people in a negative way. I don't know. I haven't met anybody yet that
Right.
says I can be on there. No, it doesn't bother me. Not one person.
No, it does. It does.
It's hard. It's really hard.
It's true. The problem with it is we so live in everybody else's world now that when we have a comparative mindset, it really leads to us feeling inadequate in areas that we should be okay with ourselves in.
Yeah.
Now because we're invited in everyone else's home, they're behind the scenes, the way they raise their kids, their families.
Yeah.
It makes us as husbands and wives and even students of whatever university you're at, I'll never live up to their expectation.
Oh, yeah.
I'll never be like them. I'll never be as pretty or as good a mom or dad, or I will never be able to take vacations like that. That comparative mindset leaves us with this identity that God never gave us.
Right.
Our identity is supposed to be found in God and what the gifts that He's given us and the life He's given us. And here we are, Kara, this beautiful house, amazing backyard. Like we are so blessed. But I can get online and I'm telling you within 30 seconds, I'm like, that's a bummer. We don't have a pool. We don't have this hot tub. We don't have this. All of a sudden I start feeling with this comparative mindset, I'm a failure.
Yeah.
I'm not living up to who I'm supposed to be in life.
And if you study the teachings of Jesus in the Bible, obviously the New Testament, his teachings are so centered around contentedness.
Right.
Having a happy spirit. I mean, even Paul says, like, I've learned no matter what, and no matter what state I am, I'm not quoting exactly, but therewith to be content. And I mean, I'm pretty sure he wrote that from prison or soon after, or, I mean, it's this thought process all the way through the New Testament of being content. Jesus even said, if we have food and raiment, that's enough.
That's right.
And I mean, we just live in this huge bubble in America of we have to have more.
Right.
We have to have more. We have to have everything, and we have to have it now. And when you don't live in that state of I'm content with what I do have and I'm thankful for what I do have, I will tell you, personal experience, it will make you unhappy. It
That's
makes
right.
me unhappy
Yep.
to see how much other people have and I don't have that. Now, that's sad and it's immature that we can't process that and be happy for others.
Right.
And I think there's growth there too. We should be able to see other people having things and still be content with what we have. But I don't think we were meant to see it in this volume.
Right. I am, Kara, so in agreement with you
Yeah.
that it is hard to get satisfied, I feel like, in anything in life when we're not content.
Yeah.
That dissatisfaction that always comes when we are on social media, even as a pastor, honestly, X is full of guys that would be in my circle and friends and mentors. And man, I can get on and become very dissatisfied with the ministry or the building and or the lack of participation, because I'm living in this mindset of, wow, look what they have and look what they've built. And I think what social media can do, if we're not careful, that envy, that inadequacy, that not being content really leaves us with this shell of a person that is looking in the mirror saying, I don't like that person because that person's not this person. We have to get over that really quickly.
Yeah.
We have to stop. We're going to give some great tips on how you stop, but this is definitely one of the first pitfalls is this, that comparison and envious attitude. The Bible puts it like this in the book of Proverbs 14 and verse number 30. It says, a sound heart is life of the flesh, but envy is rottenness of the bones. And it does absolutely, it will eat you alive because when you're off it, it's so amazing. When you go on vacation, you're off social media for a while, it is amazing how satisfied you are with the car you drive, with the spouse you married, with the kids you have, with the vacation spot you're in. Put the phone away for a little while, and all of a sudden, like, man, this is, I feel good. It's life to the flesh.
Yeah.
But isn't it amazing? Thousands of years ago, this verse was written. It feels like it's a tweet yesterday.
Yeah.
That envy really does eat up your bones.
Yeah.
It leaves you dry.
It takes your joy.
It does.
It does.
Okay, so that's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, I'll jump into this, Kara, and then you can jump in here. Secondly, is it's a distraction, and if we don't use it correctly, it really will eat up our time. Social media can be a significant distraction. Take away our spiritual practices like prayer and Bible study. It takes away what we would say is community involvement. It even hurts a younger generation in a big way where, Kara, we were constantly outside and we were always playing and we were always, with friends. And I knew every kid in our neighborhood. I don't know about y'all, but we played with it.
We only had one neighbor because we lived out in the country. We literally had one neighbor.
All of a sudden I started thinking about your road.
You're like,
anyways,
there wasn't a house to be seen.
Okay, you didn't play with the creepy neighbor, but we did. We knew all of our neighbors, and we got that community involvement that we do not see anymore. And I'll tell you why. Because everybody's sitting inside scrolling on their phones.
Oh, yeah.
We see it at restaurants. People sit down, they're on their phones. I'll be honest, Kara, I see it in church. Like, people come in and church is over. Instead of like mingling and talking and there will be people, and if you're listening to this, I'm not calling you out, but I'm just saying, people that sit there and just scroll on their phones.
Yeah.
And I'll walk by and it's just TikTok or Instagram. Like, church is over.
Yeah.
People are talking, but yet we're missing out.
Yeah.
How have you seen, especially maybe for the females and for ladies, how has this become a major time waster?
Well, as always, I'll share a personal story because that's just how I roll.
Yeah, let's do it.
But I've had issues in the last few months with falling into that addiction of like, I want a brain break, and women will know exactly what I mean. Like, I need to not think about my list for a minute, and so I'll start scrolling. Like, I just want to think about something else for a minute. The stress of like getting everybody where they need to be and all that stuff. And before you know it, 20, 30, 40 minutes has passed by. And what a time waster. I mean, what could I do with 30 minutes if I'm not scrolling on my phone? But also there's this new thing, and I'm so glad someone came up with a term for it, because I was noticing it in my own life, like, what is wrong with me? But I remember we talked about this before. My mom said when she was growing up, they always had the TV on in the background, even if no one was watching it. It was just noise, like in the background, right? And I've always hated that. Like in our house, if no one's watching TV, I'm immediately shutting it off or muting it. I don't like the TV on all the time, and that's probably because I grew up without one. But now I've noticed my brain almost can't. I couldn't take the silence. Like this was just as recently as a few weeks ago.
Really?
Maybe about a month ago. And I would be home alone, and like even just cleaning out my closet or doing laundry or just the normal day-to-day chores, I had to have like a podcast or something, one of those
an Instagram video,
short clips or whatever playing. And it was all, I'm kind of nerdy. So again, I like history and I like science and things like that. So it would be good things that I was listening to. But I noticed, I'm like, I can't not have that playing. I have to be listening to something. I sit down and do my makeup. My phone goes on and I'm watching a YouTube video or something like that. Anything I do. And so I started noticing about myself, like, wow, I am like addicted and I can't have silence. And that's really weird for me. And so while I'm listening to something, it must have been because it read my mind, as it does. I know it does now. Read your mind. But here pops up this video, and it's this doctor talking about popcorn brain. And this is like what they've called it now.
Oh boy.
People that have to have like quick hits of audio something all the time.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's me. And so that corresponded with picking up this book. And they taught, this book talks a lot about that. And so just personally, I've realized lately, I have to have my brain resting at times. I have to be able to let my spirit experience quiet and calm. And that seems almost simplistic and silly to say, but I don't feel bad saying it because I know I'm not the only one. I know there are other people out there that we are addicted to constantly having something in the background or in our face, and I don't even feel like it's the scroll anymore so much as we have to have something playing in our ear and speaking to us. And even if it's good things, nothing is as good as the quiet where you can hear God's voice. Nothing. And so again, like I'm most of the way through this book, but those two things correspond and just the perfect timing. And it really assisted me in setting my phone down. I do check it in the morning after I get up and, do the morning routine, and I'll check it just to make sure, you're good for the morning and everything's fine. And then I leave it on my desk now, and I turn the ringer up in case someone calls or texts, but I don't carry it with me from room to room. And I'm able to just go through my day with some quiet. Yeah. And
I love it.
It's been nice.
Yeah. And we'll get more to some of the how-tos. I think what we're getting at here is, we don't have to talk about this long. Like if you're if you have social media, what a absolute time waster it can be.
Yeah.
And it's the endless scrolling. It's proven now scientifically, this is a dopamine hit. It is I need more. And if you say, no, I don't have a problem with it, I would just encourage you, take your phone out, leave it inside for a day or so, and you'll realize quickly how much we do really miss that. Did I get an email? Did I check this? Did anybody like my post? We are now truly addicted to this.
Yeah.
The problem is the Bible talks about redeeming the time because the days are evil.
Yeah.
We miss out on so much of life, or the purpose of the reason you and I are here, because we're just constantly scrolling and looking at. Half the stuff is people we don't know.
Yeah.
And
most of it.
It really is.
Most of it is ads.
The other day I got so aggravated because I thought, here I am. I think it was on either Twitter or Instagram. And I would say 90% was either ads or literally people that follow me or I follow them, but we've never met and I've never seen them. And so none of my family, none of my church members, there's nobody. And I
Yeah, it's
thought, well,
just
this is
people
such
you
a
don't
waste
know.
of time. Like, why?
That's so
Who
true.
cares about a guy from this area who I don't know?
Yeah.
It can, if we're not careful, become a distraction and a
Mhm.
complete waste of time. We got to talk more about that too, Kara. Remind me of
Mhm.
be still and know that I am God.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we'll come back to that. Hey, let's talk about this one. We don't have a problem with this at all, but we know some people that do.
Oh,
So
no.
here it comes. How about this, Kara? If we're not careful, the pitfalls are it's a spread of misinformation.
Oh yeah, we don't have a problem with that at all. It is amazing to me how gullible we are now.
Wow.
We are. I remember being a kid
It is.
and my dad walking in the room and he goes, "Hey, somebody spray painted gullible on the ceiling," and I was like, "Oh." I was like 8.
You are not
18.
Yeah, exactly. I knew it. Did that really happen? That's great.
Ask my dad. Well, he probably doesn't remember, but
That's
it was
great.
traumatic in my life.
That's
I was
great.
like, Dad. But you know, as silly as that sounds, and we laugh about that, are we not the same way
Oh, we
anymore?
are.
We
Everyone.
read something or we
Yep.
watch a video on something, and that is it. And we're like, no, for real. Beyond the Arctic ice caps, there exists, you know, like
yeah.
all
It's,
this craziness that's
yeah,
coming out. I
it's
mean,
bad.
it's from scientific stuff like flat Earth to spiritual things from the Bible
Hey,
that.
wait a minute. We're flat Earth now. What about all of our listeners who believe in flat
I'm
Earth?
just saying it's out there. I didn't
Just
say
saying.
who believed it or not. If you want to believe it,
Oh,
you know, I'm
no.
more than welcome.
I'm good. I'm good. But I will say this. I
Excuse me.
feel like it went from kind of every once in a while we would hear things like words like conspiracy theories, and they were so rare.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, especially post COVID, it is every day, all day. You do honestly, you don't even know who to believe anymore.
I know.
It's proven now that the people who are supposed to be fact checking this stuff, they're liars,
Yeah.
and they're spreading false information.
You cannot trust what you see.
No,
That's
yeah,
the scariest thing. You can't even trust a video. You're
right,
seeing it with your own eyes, and you can't trust that it hasn't been manipulated.
right.
And
You know what people can trust?
what?
Forward podcast. Boom, right there. Unedited,
Well,
raw, and we're running out of daylight.
yes, you know, ain't none of this edited.
The problem is, Kara, we've seen it now. It has snuck its way into people who should honestly know better.
Right.
We've gotten to this place as God bless America. We've gotten to this place where everyone's believing everything.
Yeah.
I can't tell you in the last couple of years what I have heard, the crazy conspiracy theories out there,
Yeah.
the craziness of now we're all robots, and then you remember the whole people, should we wear masks, should we not during COVID, and then getting the COVID
Oh,
vaccines, and then this, and there was so much on both ends
yeah.
misinformation, and now we're past that, and we're
Yeah.
still seeing we're going to run out of diesel fuel, then we're going to run out of gas, then I think that was like 2 years ago.
The
and
world
we're
is
still,
ending. The world is
we
always
have
ending.
always heard that.
The world is always coming to an end.
It's
In a
yes,
few months, it's going to be over. Like, it's just, and I think the most disappointing thing about that is, for me personally, is that it has really fooled our older generation.
yes, it has.
The people that are, and I'm just going to say older, and I hope I don't offend anyone, but look, like, do the math, okay? If you're 60 or above, you're older, right? Like,
and,
that's just.
and half of our listeners think we're old because we're in our 40s.
I know, we're not. No, I don't care. I'm just talking about, like, if you live from 0 to 80, okay?
Right.
So the last 20 years, 60 to 80 years old, you're supposed to be the wisdom in the room.
Mm.
You're supposed to be, especially, and I'm speaking specifically to Christians here, but really in general, older people who have lived 60 plus years are supposed to be wise. They're supposed to have our backs and to guide us and give us information that they have lived through. And I feel like the internet's really fooled a whole generation
Right.
of our older, wiser
Right.
saints and just, citizens of this country. And I feel like they've kind of haven't had our backs in that area. They haven't paused to say, listen, you need to think through this and let's look at the evidence and pray about it and ask the Lord. Instead, they're the fearmongers.
Right.
And I feel it from that generation of them, putting more fear upon us as we're
Mm.
raising children, as we're moving society forward, as we're working and building our careers. I feel fear from them.
Yeah.
And it's disappointing.
Right.
And I don't mean to say that in an offensive way, but just that we can do better.
Right.
And I want to make sure that as we age, we're encouraging those younger than us
Right.
as we become the older ones.
And it may be, it could be because there isn't a generation, including us a little bit, that didn't have to grow up
Right.
always fighting being manipulated in a
Yes.
way that we are manipulated now. Maybe
Well, they've never had to deal with it.
They did not have to deal with it.
Uh-uh.
So when they saw something on the news, it was actually news. News
factual.
was just being reported. Here it
Yes.
is. There's no take on it. There's no political spin or twist.
Yeah.
So I would come to their aid and say maybe they have not been trained in a
Right.
way that even our son, Tommy, is being trained of. I don't believe any of this. This
Yeah.
has been edited. This is not real. They're able to pick it out.
Yeah, that's true.
This comes back to, Carrie, honestly, being discerning
Mhm.
and then also being readers. We see a meme or we see one picture and it's like, oh, guess what? The president, fill in the blank, oh, well, all the cows died in the whole world because I saw this 20-second clip. We have to be readers and we
Yeah.
have to be investigators and we're supposed to be wise. This
Yeah.
is where critical thinking comes in.
Mhm.
The problem with a pitfall of too much social media is exactly this, is we've become very unwise. We
Yeah.
become foolish and fools, and then we spout stuff that we can't get back,
Yeah.
and then we hurt our testimony
Yeah.
towards kids or that younger generation of, oh my word,
Mhm.
the shepherds believe, we do not believe this, but we did hear, that, anyways, I'm not even gonna go there. 'Cause
Oh
it's gonna
my!
open up.
Now everyone wants to know what you were gonna say.
Email me and I might tell you, but I don't want to. I don't want to go there. So, spread of misinformation. Hey, let's go into this last one,
Yeah.
and that is this. It's negative interactions. It's
Mm.
interacting with people who are negative. Social media
Yeah.
platforms can be this really breeding ground
Mhm.
of negativity, bullying, toxic interactions,
Yeah.
and it does and can hurt us
Mhm.
spiritually, and it can hurt us mentally in a great way.
Mhm.
Not everybody out there is positive, and
Mhm.
not everybody out there even likes what we're doing here at the Forward Podcast. Well, you know what? If we're not careful, we get sucked into this world of, I can't believe somebody gave a bad review, or I can't believe somebody said that.
Mhm.
Instead of the thousands that have tuned in and the thousands that love it,
Mhm.
we get sucked into this world of negativity.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll have to cut this one off.
I think again too, it has been disappointing. And I won't call out a specific generation, it's everyone, but how much Christians specifically have allowed social media to be a place where they spew hatred or divisiveness or discord amongst one another that they would never have done in person. And that's just a disappointing thing.
That, Carrie, so well said.
Yeah.
I love that you brought that up. I wasn't going to, and we
Yeah.
didn't even talk about it, but it is so true. Why do you think it is so easy for us to fight these battles behind a computer screen
Mhm.
that we would never even care for you and I say to each other?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a relief because for so long before the internet, and again, this echoes back to our generation and older, we had to practice so much self-control. And
Mhm.
confronting someone was like a last resort, right? Because it's uncomfortable.
Right.
And you have to really be passionate about what you're going to say. If you are offended or you're upset or you want to stand up for something, you have to be ready to face someone with it,
Right.
in person. And now we don't have to have that self-control.
Yeah.
Now we can post something and we can click off of the social media app. We, shut our notifications off. If we don't want to hear the comments, we don't have to. If we don't want to read them, or we can go back and read them and hide behind our screen and we don't have to face that person. And it's just this wonderful hit of like spite and justification
Yeah.
and lack of self-control that we don't have to have anymore.
Yeah.
And it's enticing. I just a couple months ago posted a retort to someone and then I went back and deleted it. And I thought, that is not me. I would not say that to their face.
Right.
I would not.
Yeah.
I really, really wanted to, And I wish I could say it to their face, but I know myself and I probably wouldn't have.
Right.
I mean, and so I'm like, why would I put that? That
Yeah.
is so un-Christ-like.
Right.
And honestly, am I really going to change that person's mind?
No, you're not.
In fact, I'm probably digging them deeper into
Right.
their own opinion because now it's a conflict.
Right.
And we all want to be right.
It's a very cowardly warfare.
It is.
It is.
It's horrible.
Again, it sucks you into this time thing. And for everyone who tunes in, and it's probably mostly guys who are of certain sect of Christianity, that they get into these Twitter wars, and there's no winning.
I get
They
so frustrated.
never call each other.
It's terrible.
It is this, and we've seen it in Christianity for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody will, they're going to leave your church, or they're not going to talk to you anymore. They'll shoot you a text, and they won't say anything to your face, but boy, they'll hit up Facebook, and boy, they'll let everybody know their business and insinuations, and it's a very cowardly warfare that takes place, that I feel like as individuals and as Christians and people of integrity, we've got to be careful that we don't start getting sucked into those rabbit holes of constantly fighting and battling in that negative tone of, to be honest with you, you said it, who cares? And then number two, you're not going to change someone's mind.
Right.
I know you and I, we've made our minds up. We should be willing to grow and learn. But most of the time, those battles are very superficial. They're very surface level. And it's just kind of backhanded insults that nobody wins.
And the interesting thing to note is, if someone does change my mind about something, I would change my mind because they came from a place of love and care.
Yes.
And we had an open and honest discussion about it. I don't think my mind has ever been changed by an all out and out word battle where there's, conflict and problems and hatefulness. Like, I've just dug in deeper to my own opinion.
Right.
But if
So
someone,
true.
if we sit together and have a conversation and someone out of love is saying, well, what do you think about this? And here's what I think. And it's from a place of care and friendship.
Right.
My mind would be open to change.
Sure.
But yet we don't practice those same values online.
That's right.
And it's so crazy.
Yeah. So as you can see, to everybody who's listening, you now realize quickly there are some problems with social media. If we're not careful, these pitfalls that we've talked about this evening, all of us need to be made aware of. I don't think this is just a Thomas and Carrie. This is all of us. We need to strive to work on these things, and all of us need to. You know what? That's me. That's me. But the problem is, we all listen to this and I'm like, yeah, that's my wife. Boy, I'm telling you, that's my friend over there.
They listen to this.
I'm going to shoot this to them right now. Okay, no, let's work on it ourselves. Let's grow. And
that's good.
When you listen to this, share it with someone. But then do this. Don't forget to tune in next week. It'll be much more encouraging. We're gonna fight through this together. We're gonna give you some great helps that have helped Carrie and I and our household personally in a great way.
Yes.
And so again, if you haven't given us a 5-star review, do that. We haven't said that in a little while. And then also share this when you're with somebody, shoot it out, give us a shout out on Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, soon to be TikTok. If you know TikTok, reach out to Carrie because we'd love to get that page set up
need help.
as soon as we can. Actually, you set it up, and then didn't you post a weird video?
I don't know. I thought I was changing our profile picture, and I posted some kind of little video with like this really bad song on it, and someone had to text me and say, I don't think you meant to share that song. And I was like, what? I didn't share.
So,
God help me.
This is our this is a Ford podcast with a horrific, horrible song on there. So at that moment, we're like, okay, we'll come back to TikTok here soon, and
it's real, y'all.
Get out there.
It's real.
That is not real. So hey, appreciate you listening tonight. If you have a question, look us up or shoot us a question at fordpodcast@outlook.com, and continue to tune in. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a great week.